Hey, it's like if you dumb something down so much that you think you can't dumb it down any further, then you reach a point where it's still so simple, people still don't understand it. I call this video "The Stupid It Burns." So I made a bunch of information about the errors that other people post, saying that a larger sensor has a better high ISO performance, which it does, but it has nothing to do with it being a larger sensor. It has to do with the FX sensor having larger photo sites. See, once a sensor is made, it's made, right? Well, you know that, and hopefully anybody else with two brain cells, at least two brain cells, knows that. Once you make a sensor, that's it. Stick it in the camera, that's it. You remember back in the days of film where ISO actually meant something? Regarding the film emulsion, had large grains on the halide emulsion, means it was more sensitive to light. That unfortunately is carried over into digital, and it shouldn't. And I'm going to crucify it tomorrow on ISO, and people are going to have a hissy fit, but there won't be a single person out there that will be able to deny any of it. Not one bit of it. So I'm going to crucify it tomorrow. And we're also going to talk about gain. See, I grew up with ham radio. I was a whiz. I mean, I got my license just really fast. Techno-code. I went from nothing to techno-code. I mean, I've got an antenna farm in the backyard, ham radio stuff everywhere. All the stuff that applies to gain is like second nature to me. But when it comes to people into photography, let me be honest without insulting anybody. When it comes to photography, what photographers know about gain is this. They don't know a damn thing. You think I'm insulting you? I apologize. It's okay not to know. It's a different thing to wallow like a pig in ignorance. And you know, I don't know anything about car repair, so I'm ignorant on that. So I mean, you know, life is short and nobody knows everything about everything. I'm certainly one of those people. I mean, I don't know how to car repair, I don't know how to build houses, you know. But photographers should know what the hell gain is. And they have no damn clue. No clue at all. No clue at all. Let's, before I actually give you the most simple analogy in the world why everybody is just full of crap regarding, you know, larger sensors, you know, larger sensors don't equal, you know, better high ISO performance and better dynamic range. Larger photo sites do, not larger sensors. Let's talk about gain. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow in detail. Let's look at this radio. You see this antenna? This antenna is like a photo site. You know, kind of like how you pull the antenna out to get better gain. This is a really crappy antenna. You know, I'm used to dealing with complex, you know, Yagi antennas and disc cone antennas. They're complex antennas. But like, you know, this doesn't have a good as gain as this, and this is equivalent to a photo site. Okay, this would be a small photo site. Doesn't work that well. I go to turn the radio on. Let's stick on an FM station here. Let's turn it up a little bit. Oh, gain, volume, gain. Doesn't work too well there, does it? Oh my God! I extended out the antenna. The signal comes in better. Oh crap! Look at that. Smaller photo site, the gain isn't as good. When your sensor is made, it is locked this way at the factory. Okay? Small photo site, large photo site. Do you get that? This is set. You can't adjust this. Once it's made, the sensor's made, that's it. Small photo site. You know what this is over here? This is the ISO dial on your camera. Well, no, that's the volume knob on your radio there. Yeah, let's amplify what exists. You kind of get the signal. If you hold it just the right spot. You see, I've increased the noise. Not only have I increased the signal, but I've increased the noise. Jeez, that makes sense. I never thought about it that far. See, there's three types of gain on your camera. I'm going to talk about this in detail tomorrow. There's physical gain, which has to do with the lens, the aperture and the shutter, and the size of the photo sites, pixel pitch on your sensor. Then there's applied gain. ISO is gain. Okay, the ISO from film days never should have drug over into digital cameras. There are thousands of hardcore DSLR professionals, not noobs or goofs or dummies, that say this, that agree with everything I just said. ISO should not have carried over, but it exists, so we deal with it. And then there is something else. There's actually firmware gain, stuff that you do in post-processing, but there's also another level of a gain that's actually applied where noise is canceled out. That's in the SNR, signal to noise ratio firmware, that exists after the AD converters. It goes from the signal from your sensor through the AD converter, through the SNR firmware, then it's buffered, then dumped onto your card. So let's look at a DX crop sensor here. Okay, this is a DX crop sensor. Now let's look at an FX sensor. You know, I've actually had like a dozen people tonight. It's like, I watch your videos and you're full of crap. A larger sensor is gathering more light. No, it has a larger angle of interception. Well, it has better ISO performance. Better high ISO performance and better dynamic range has nothing to do with the size of the sensor. You see that here? When your sensor is made, it's stuck there. Millions of these little things. See that little black dot there? That's the pixel pitch. If I take this sensor, let's just imagine millions of these little dots, the same size. I take this sensor and I make it bigger. If I have the same shutter and the same aperture, the actual gain, the physical gain of this point of light, and of course, you know, a picture, a composition is millions of points of light, is unchanged. I've gone from this to this, or vice versa. Nothing has changed. The exposure here and over here and all these other places remains the same. Now, if you were to say, instead of this DX pixel pitch, I'm going to drop in a FX pixel pitch. Like a Nikon D5, a Nikon D4, a Nikon D4S, a Nikon D3. Oh my God, look at that! Do you know something about telescopes? Do you know that a bigger mirror captures more light? Do you know that, I don't know if you know anything about radios, but you know that if you have a higher gain on your antenna, especially if you have waveform antennas like Yagis and disc cones, or like antennas that are way high up that are able to have better gain, that they perform better, there's less noise, they have better SNR, signal to noise. You see? That photo site, like a bigger mirror, like a big-ass telescope mirror, it gathers more light. It needs less exposure. It has better dynamic range. It has better high ISO performance. DX pixel pitch, FX pixel pitch. It doesn't matter if I go from this to this. This crap doesn't matter. This is angle of interception. Angle of interception. This is the actual physical gain on the photo site. If your shutter speed and your aperture remain constant, everything remains constant, and the only thing I've done is you can't change the photo site on the sensor. Once it's manufactured, that's it. There ain't no changing it. You can change the applied gain via the ISO. ISO is gain, by the way. It's like turning up the noise and the signal. Luckily for you, noise has certain frequencies. And the AD converter into the SNR firmware dials out much of that noise, and you can dial out more of it in Photoshop and using noise reduction software like Topaz plugins for Photoshop. There's other sorts of noise reduction software. But if you think that having a bigger sensor means you're gathering more light and therefore that is what is giving you a better exposure, then you are full-on stupid. And there are a lot of people out there that believe that. There's stuff all over the internet. There are videos on YouTube. Fill in the blank on that one, why don't you? People that say, a larger sensor is like a bucket. It gathers more light, and that's why it has better high ISO performance. Yeah! No, baby, that's dead wrong. The case is, and I sourced where this bucket analogy crud was coming from, is that people misread it because it was talking about these photo sites, not about this size sensor versus this size sensor. And I wasn't even talking about that. It was talking about this versus that. See, this would be like the Nikon D4S photo sight, analogously. This would be like the Nikon D7-100. Now let's talk about why you would want one over the other. Yeah. If you're a bird shooter, for example, you've got more of these little tiny ones, means you've got more translational points of data for the birds. Someone crops the hell out of their shot, you got more data there. If you're a photojournalist and you're shooting in really, really, really crappy light conditions, large photo sight means you're able to have faster shutter speeds, you're able to have better gain on the sensor. On the sensor, not talking about the ISO. You're able to have higher ISO, but the reason you're able to have higher ISOs and faster shutter speeds and smaller apertures is because the gain here. It's E over T. Here's an equation that's really simple. Even a moron could understand it. Exposure over time. If you got a larger photo sight, it has better capacity to capture the same amount of light as this small photo sight over a smaller period of time. Faster shutter speed, and a smaller aperture. That means that makes this a great photojournalistic sensor. It has big photo sights on it. Yay! This makes this an awesome photo sight for bird shooters. Now it is the case if both of these photo sights are given adequate exposure, you know, it's bright and sunny outside and you expose perfectly, then the difference doesn't become that much until you want to blow the hell out of it. Then, of course, got more noise here on the larger photo sight. There's not as much data per square millimeter. Then you run into issues. Let's say you print out a 20 by 30 and you don't crop the hell out of the shot. You take a shot with a DX sensor, you take a shot with a full frame sensor. They're both going to look beautiful. That's not where the issue is. The issue is in high ISO performance, dynamic range performance, low light issues. But bigger sensor does not mean that you're gathering more light. It means you're changing the angle of interception. What matters is large photo sights and small photo sights, because when you take a bunch of these little dots in the center here and you make it bigger, that doesn't change anything. If you keep the same ISO and aperture, it doesn't change anything about the exposure and that little dot and all the other little dots around it. Doesn't change a damn thing. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I could clear that up. Fight the stupid! That's my motto. Fight the stupid. Bye!